Welcome, dear friends, to this video blog, the first in a series of 4 on the 4 nutrients. We'll start with edible foods. First, I just want to take a moment to express my prayer, my wish, my aspiration that you are healthy, you are well, you find ways to embrace and transform your suffering, that your path opens up and manifests so that you can share your gifts with the world. These are all nutrients we're offering, that we're receiving and offering in each moment. So this is the intention behind the Son of Wisdom and the Dharma work I offer in Swedish at Hjärtas Glädje, is for this to mature and prosper in me and in others. So edible foods is what we eat and drink. How can we nourish ourselves? And what are the consequences of how we eat and how we drink? Also, what is our intention with eating and drinking are some of the themes I'll explore. But also how we can recognize our own suffering or even ancestral suffering through our relationship with food and drink. And we'll continue with sense impressions, volition, and consciousness when conditions are sufficient. I'm here at the Mundakula Retreat Center, and I'll be part of the 2 gatherings they have here, 2 5-day gatherings, where there's meditation and yoga, spiritual workshops, and music, time in nature, and delicious food. 3 meals of delicious food every day, and there'll be a cafe too, open, all vegetarian. And so we'll have opportunity to practice mindful eating, of nourishing ourselves with healthy and delicious foods. And so with the foods is what I appreciate this past couple of months is to also come closer to food through the soil, and how a seed gives rise to red beet, to carrot, and the whole process of actually eating it. Sometimes when I chop a carrot, I ask, I'm sorry, carrot, that you have to be taken away from your soil, your native habitat, and being chopped up, washed and being chopped up, maybe even cooked. So inviting you to become a human being. Do you want to become a human being? What we eat become cells in our body, manifest as life in us. So it doesn't mean that the carrot dies, it becomes nothing, but it continues. But what is my relationship with the carrot? Some of the carrot has been eaten partly underground by someone. Okay, it's been offered to life. It's not just for us to hold on to, it's ours. Sometimes the idea of scarcity can come up in relationship with food. We can also transform it to abundance. How do we relate to food that is abundant? Most of us watch this, experience actually abundance of food. We have access to food. We get to eat more than enough every day. And so it's interesting when we come further and further away from the actual food growing in the soil, on the tree. And so if we can get any kind of contact, I know many of you are gardeners yourselves, and don't eat a lot of prefabricated things. The more refined it gets, the further away from actually like the life source or the nutrients or the organisms of the soil it comes. And it nourishes something else in us. So if we want to be grounded, if we want to be whole foods and living close or coming in contact with the food that is close to the earth. That was one of the things I really appreciate when I've been traveling in Vietnam. On 3 occasions, and especially the first 2 was longer trips, and we stayed in villages and different places, and the food that we ate at the temples and were offered, like all the vegetables were picked the same day, the same morning. They were cut and sold to the market and cooked during the day. It's so fresh, it's so vital. It's not a lot of ingredients. Just a couple of steamed vegetables and sometimes a stir fry, but you could feel like the life energy in them. And so now we have the opportunity to eat berries from the garden and lettuce and some chard and red beets, potatoes, carrots, and the apples start coming, the first early kind. And so that is like, wow, the abundance of life giving itself back to life, to us. So for me, it's important to receive the nutrient as a gift and receive it as an offering, and then in turn, the energy, the cells, the body that is a result of the food, the gift I'm receiving. How can I offer some of that energy back into the world? And that is hugely helpful in transforming a kind of a grasping and attached relationship with foods. I've noticed years ago that I use food and delicious drink both for celebration and for comfort. Yeah, and sometimes it's just nice to have a cup of tea, and it refreshes my throat, and it gives a moment to really engage with the senses. So we can explore in our own life. What do we eat and drink? And how do we eat and drink it? Are we in a hurry? Are we doing other things at the same time? Are we receiving it? I've noticed also for myself this past year that my eating meditation has changed. Because most of the time I have part in both shopping and preparing, cooking and serving the food. And sometimes I eat out, or my mom cooked, or Emma cook and someone else do the grocery shopping. But many times I'm also involved in one part of that chain. And so it becomes like a continued meditation. But what I like to do is when I sit with the plate or the bowl of food, I did it this morning, to see all the ingredients. So this morning there was oat yogurt. I know oats, how they grow. There was oats and corn and sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds and raisins in the granola. I've seen those grow. I know how they grow. So to come in contact with the ingredients and how they've been matured, they don't come from nowhere, even if they're in a nice bag. And apple I cut, and blueberries from our garden, and some dates. I've seen a little bit more distant how the date palm grows. And so to be in contact with the food and to touch the nutrients, the soil, the place, the geography, climate that's given rise to these plants before starting to eat, I really enjoy it. It doesn't need a lot of words, but it helps me to come in contact with. Sometimes I kind of energy massage the food to like feel its life energy and to add my life energy to it to already start the process of receiving and digesting. And it's interesting to notice what kind of food we're drawn to and where are we? Where is our consciousness? Who are we as a person? What kind of food do we like? And sometimes it's because it's our temperament, our personality, our makeup is helpful for us. And sometimes it's our suffering or our affliction that draws us to certain foods to maybe celebrate or to cover up and feel comfort. So it kind of become an escape somehow from what we're experiencing, or something that meets us at our vibe, the experience of eating a certain food, and when it blends with who we are. I like cooking and I like eating my own food, the thing I've cooked, because somehow it seems like it blends. It comes together. Sometimes it's lovely to eat other people's food. Sometimes it seems kind of bland. Sometimes it seems too intense in flavor. So to explore being part of the food chain in a way of cultivation is a wonderful way of coming in contact with this nutrient. And so a plant, if it doesn't continue to grow, if it's not in a process of growth, it's already in the process of stagnation on the way to deterioration and what we call death. And so to nourish ourselves, and sometimes we need more nourishment, sometimes less. And what is seemed to work for us is really helping me also to listen to my body. What is helpful and what is kind of for entertainment is okay. So I eat potato chips. I know I don't need that for my nutrition. I try to eat the potato chips that's the healthier kind, and many times even organic potatoes. And make it as wow, it's a celebration. It's like something happened. It's this moment of feeling like the weekend may be starting or a long day has come to an end. So it's very natural to have food as culture. So we don't want to take away that, but to make the best of it, and also the relationship with the food and the relationship with the people that we eat with. So this evening I'll share a little bit about silent eating. And we're gonna have 20 minutes of silence in the beginning of each meal here, and for some they're new. And it's not a meditation center environment, it's not a retreat. So you might have different perceptions. If you like it, you don't like it, if it feels very natural or very foreign. But as a ground of exploration, to come in contact with the food, the sense impressions of the food. You cannot take one nutrient away from the others. You see how edible foods and sense impression, they have something to do with each other. And that of like the humility that we can cultivate through receiving. We need to receive gifts enabled to live in order for us to sustain this life, whether it's the sunlight, the air, the waters, or the actual food we eat. And so the carrot is kind of sacrificing itself. The apple, before it's ready to fall to the ground, is kind of sacrificing itself. I went around our apple tree that kind of gives early fruits. Some fall to the ground, we pick, and a lot of it has been damaged somehow. I cooked tomato, neither potato nor tomato, apple sauce from the apple. You see, what you plant, that's what will grow. What kind of thing you take to make sauce, it will become that sauce, apple sauce. And some, it's good to eat the fresh also. And I touched some of the bigger ones on the tree, but I feel like it's too much of a struggle for them to let go. So I thought, okay, you get to wait a little bit. Your time of maturation and time for letting go hasn't come yet. So it's also that of letting something come to fruition, even the food, come to fruition. So for example, the food industry and the monocultures or the farming industry for dairy or for animal meat, it doesn't give the opportunity for life or for life to come to fruition, not at all, actually the contrary. And so to reflect on that also as, what do I take in? And what kind of energies do they bring? What kind of environments, what kind of business do they support? And that becomes part of us as well. If we only eat TV dinners, our life become a little bit rigid and confined and sterile. Life and the flexibility, the vitality of life cannot really come to us in that way, that form of nutrient. And so I mentioned I enjoy cooking. I grew up in commercial kitchens. My parents were managers of lunch restaurants when I grew up, and in my teens they ran a banquet and conference center. My dad was the chef, and I helped at different stages. So I also see that food is an art. When I help prepare the plate for the starter or the dessert, it was like an art piece. My dad showed me, okay, this goes there so much, and this, and together it becomes like an art piece on this white plate. And so I could feel his professional pride, or like the artistry of the food he cooked. And so just spending time with him and my mother in the kitchen, and my mom cooked more of the international foods at home. And later on, as a monk, we lived also with kind of commercial kitchen. We cooked food for a lot of people. And so through all that, it also seemed like it's easy for me. It's like my body and know what to do in the kitchen, it goes by itself. I hear some people, oh, I don't know what to cook. It seems so difficult. It takes a lot of time. I just said, really? I haven't noticed that somehow, because it's like so part of my consciousness and my body. It goes very easy. I'm going to start a little short video series, or maybe put some recipes, kind of recipes. I don't use any recipes. I don't want to create any. But I have some grains that I use often, some source of protein I use often, some vegetables I always have, or vegetables that come in a little bit, and maybe 4 or 5 kinds of main seasoning that is like helping to create the flavor and the fragrance of the dishes. And so the other day I thought of this, and I was just cooking lunch for myself and didn't need anything very special, but also wanted to eat soon because I was hungry. I would start getting tired. And so I cooked this meal. I have photos below, and it's like a vegetable stew with some beans, and actually became rice noodles this time. I'm enjoying both a vegan and a gluten-free diet right now, and for my stomach and my mucus, or my whole body feels like the lightest and the most appropriate diet I've ever had. And so you might also consider for yourself, what are the physical symptoms or ailments or restrictions you're feeling? And is that in any way caused by the kind of food I'm eating, the kind of nutrients I'm giving myself? And so it's kind of, if we know what needs more time cooking, can start chop up. Normally I put on the heat on the stove, I chop some onions, I put it in, and while they're kind of sauteing, I can maybe put on the rice on the side or chop other things. So like slowly, while I wait for something in the oven, I chop and prepare something else. And then, ta-da, the meal manifests. So I'm kind of see this when I talk to friends too. It's not a given for everyone. I got a birthday gift last year from an old friend from university. It's a cookbook as a vegetarian cooking in less than 30 minutes. And I see there's a lot of dairy products in there, so I haven't been able to use much of the recipes. And I'll offer kind of a little guide just to kind of, this is something that is difficult for you, so you eat a lot of fast food or prefabricated food or don't know how to cook. Just a easy and joyful way to get into more cooking. But the nutrient of foods and come in contact with the food. Where do you come from? What is your journey? And at times I've noticed that it's also my ancestors in me that kind of is worried there'll be enough food. Even my grandparents' generation, they didn't always have enough food. There were periods when they did not, and sometimes it's just barely enough. And so most of us have that, not in a too distant past, even if it hasn't been part of our life, but many people's lives right now. 1 billion people don't have enough food every day or clean water. So it's also kind of receiving the gift, but also allowing our compassion to grow. How can I eat in a way that is helpful and healthy for me, but also sustainable for the planet? And that is showing in one way or another my love and care for other people on this planet. I'm special in a way, like I see the world from my perspective. And it's not exactly an objective reality I see out there. And you see it differently. So we're all unique in that way. Every single one of the 7 billion people that we are. And so that everyone feel happy and safe, that everyone have enough food and drink and shelter, clothing, safety, and also herbs and simple foods when they're sick, or medical treatments. There's also a prayer we can keep in our hearts while we eat. We don't want to eat just to grasp onto as much as possible just for ourselves alone. But we're aware of a bigger picture. Not for us, oh, I shouldn't eat this much, oh, I shouldn't. No. Then we kind of it become a snake, a misperception of the teaching that bites us. But more as to open our tenderness, our appreciation for what we are receiving, and our aspiration to wanting to offer something beautiful back to the world, however that manifests, right? And so I look forward to continuing this journey with you, with the 4 nutrients, and I'll post some photos of this meal I mentioned and continue with that a little bit also in English of sonofwisdom.com, and you can also join the feeds at the WordPress website or at the Facebook site. So take good care, and thank you for being with me all the way to the end. Bye.